All right, happy Friday, everyone. The market has officially closed as of a little bit over an hour ago, and wanted to start this review off on the 5 minute just to kind of like see how things are in the smaller time frame, which can be looked at as like the micro or the right now money, as opposed to the macro or the long-term money, right? And again, this is not financial advice, right? This is all for entertainment, education. So pay attention. You may learn some things, but again, this is just the way that I do things. So there's no, right or wrong. And in my opinion, like I said, I'm just sharing my experience with you all who are willing to listen. So with that being said, just got, a nice general review right here, right, of the 5 minute. I'm going to go out to the monthly now, and then I'll return down to the 5 minute, and maybe some of this stuff will, right, make a little bit more sense moving forward. So from the monthly, if you recall, we had marked up the all-time high, and we marked up the December high, the December low, and then I've been watching also this November low, just in case you want to get crazy, right? So looking at January so far, we are inside of December's trading. So yes, we had a nice bullish close so far in this first week. But you just want to, right, from the monthly perspective, keep in mind, right, that we are still inside of December's trading, which could ultimately lead to us, right, trading in this range for a while. Down to the weekly, we see those levels in which I was talking about how price ran those levels, right? Ran buy side here, returned quickly into the range, ran sell side, quickly back into the range, buy side again, right? And then we found ourselves once again back within this range. Traded down to this down close weekly candle, and we're able to find some support there, right? Which picked up this week in particular with a nice gap open. Dropping down to the daily, getting a little bit more of a view of the consolidation that we are in already as a month, right? So the first day of January was the third right here, right? And so we see how we open up this day, actually all the way up here. So we had a huge gap opening to start the week, right? Traded lower, down below these lows, snap back up above that weekly, right? Support, as well as these daily volume imbalances in here. So just a lot of liquidity, in my opinion, resting down there, right? So that's why we saw a trade down there, snap back, right? Then we get this day, which opens what with a gap down, right? And then we trade higher, and we fail to reach that high, end up closing lower, still just keeping these volume imbalances in mind, right? So I should try to give you a better view here, right? And then so Thursday's trading, also utilizing, right, those volume imbalances, trading above them, and then finding reason to trade lower, once again running the sell side. And then ultimately Friday, the last day of trading this week, where we saw once it opened, a little bit of trading lower, no more, I guess, need in a sense, right, to trade for a sell side anymore. And then it runs all the buy side up here, right? So this buy side had already been taken. This buy side I've been waiting to see if it would be taken. And then this level, of course, is that weekly level, right, that had already been talked about. And so that is how we see on the daily chart that we close, but we'll go all the way down to the 5 minutes. So let's keep going. Got the 4 hour. Now you start to see a little bit of the colorfulness in a sense, right? So we got all the days denoted, as well as you see this yellow line, which is going to always represent for me the opening price for the week. And then this area here, which was that opening gap that I mentioned, right? So once it opened up from last Friday, there's a huge gap from where Friday closed to where this week opened at. But then it quickly, right, well, after trading a little bit higher, quickly traded back lower, back into that range, right, and ultimately filled that gap. And then right after that, ran buy side, ran sell side, right? Failed to get up there, run buy side again. This candle was, I'm sure this was a very difficult 4 hours for plenty of people, as well as this one. But then we see ultimately just consolidation if you look at the bodies of the candles, right? And then we see a nice dip here on Thursday morning, right? Sell side once again, consolidate, and then coming into this morning with NFP with the news release, just very aggressive, right? Run on buy side. That's nice 4 hour perspective. 4 hours structure, as I stated in another video as well. Just understanding market structure, like advanced market structure, really will be able to help you when the price is most likely to start to have breakouts of ranges when it's on these larger time frame ranges. I believe the 4 hour is really pivotal for that. But going down to the hourly, so then still just trying to focus on this week, right? Because we got the last week of 2022 and the first week of 2023 as far as like outlooks are concerned, right? And so part of this one I will do an outlook for next week, but just want to wrap up this review really quick. And so now I'll be able to see it from an hourly perspective, right? So again, that gap I was talking about, the gap opening, Friday closed here, right? This new week open up here, trade lower, fill that gap, run buy side, run sell side, right? Failure to run the highest, right, of the week buy side, but we did run the buy side from Tuesday New York session, right? Then breakdown, consolidation. Notice is all within, right, that opening gap, this price action. Look at the sensitivity, just beautiful. Also utilizing these volume imbalances. And so to be honest, I wasn't very interested in trading this week. If you look at it from an hourly perspective, it's not much high probability. The only thing that was high probability was that it would be low probability, in my opinion. And so I definitely wanted to make sure that I stayed away until things started to make a little bit more sense. And again, so we see another right failure to run the high, but we did run a couple of highs up in here though. So we did take some buy side. Then once again, right, running a sell side, making a new low of the week on Thursday, retracing, consolidation, and then, like I said, with NFP this morning, saw a very aggressive, right, run on buy side with some pretty deep retracement in a sense, right, that definitely could have been short covering as well as engineering, more buy side in the sense of people placing sell orders and then placing their stop losses above the highs and then just continuing to run them out, right, and squeezing them over and over and over again. And so we'll go to the 30-minute, and this 30-minute is actually the catalyst for the setups that I had for today, actually, that I traded, in the sense that we were leaving a really healthy trend line here, in my opinion. I'll put that on here for you just for visualization of it. And I tend to call them liquidity lines, right? But we got, ultimately it was two of them, and so I will just show that. I don't use these in the typical way that most traders are taught, meaning that these are usually used to mark up, right, support or resistance, but that's not really the way that I use them. For me, they're more an area in which price is likely to gravitate to because of the fact that people use them as support and resistance, right? So there are people who subscribe to the idea that, because price has been coming up to these areas and dropping, that they would continue to offer that type of trade to them until we get a breakout. And so as we closed, right, on Thursday, closed the Thursday session closed, and going into the Friday session, which was right in here. So this was the Friday session open. And so considering how we had ran and made a new low of the week, right? We had retraced pretty good, and we'll see it better on the smaller time frame, but we had retraced pretty good here, right? And then once we started to show support within this volume imbalance on the daily, it kind of just made sense to me to at least take the trade from here back up to this level because, like I said, I'm not looking at this as a area for me to take a sell from more. So I'm looking at it as an area where people are going to have that idea to sell here. And I want to be the person that brings the pain to them. Right. And so that's what I was looking at. And I actually was in this movement here, did end up getting stopped out as it dropped back down here, but I was able to re-enter and actually was part of this move here. Also caught some of this back down, but was not prepared for this rip higher, just considering that there were two news events that came out. And we'll actually talk about that too. Let me bring that up. Oh, I need that. So we see we had, and this is all Eastern time. So at 8:30 Eastern, right, we had the non-farm payroll, and then at 10 Eastern, we had this ISM. And so with that in mind, right, I was really anticipating that this, right, the second set of news, the one at 10, could have been a catalyst for if we were to, right, trade up here, that it could continue lower and instead of right ripping higher and running buy side, that we could have ran the sell side because it was really a 50-50 day in my opinion. And that's why you don't really want to be trading NFP unless you gather enough experience and have confidence, right, to understand that number one, it is 50-50, so you shouldn't feel any type of way if you do get it wrong, but there's always something to learn from it, right? And so yeah, so we get the 30-minute perspective here, right? We do see a beautiful reaction in this area. Like I said, I did take this trade and capitalize off of this movement here, but to be honest, I was looking for it to continue lower and to reach this level potentially, rather than running higher and eventually it was the first time that I actually made its way above the buy side that had been resting up here from the week of Christmas. And yeah, so that's the 30-minute perspective. Right, and let me just get rid of this because, well, actually, we'll keep that there because I guess is relevant. We kind of see how the smaller time frame reacts here as well, right? So let's just make sure it'll show. All right, okay. 15-minute, kind of see, not that much different than a 30. Pretty much the same flow, just two candles is in place of where one was right on there. But we do see just the overall reaction at these levels, right? And again, in my opinion, nothing really high probability, right? This looks super choppy up in here. You know what I'm saying? And then last but not least, 5-minute, which is where we began, right? And so we'll kind of do it like a little pan. So we'll start over here, right? So you can actually see the candles. But so open up, right? Like I said, trade lower and don't reach that weekly level. Return, start to form that resistance, right? Make a low of the week there, but reject from that old there's an old daily low, right? Another opening gap here. So between the Tuesday and Wednesday trading, right? We had another gap opening. So I always like to mark that out. Stayed above that, traded into it this morning, right? But ultimately was able to find support there. Return to that resistance level again, right? Start to break down. Don't make a new low. Ultimately, just consolidation on the high time frame. But we can see on the smaller time frame a lot of volatility. Ultimately, like I said, though, a lot of consolidation, just working within that opening gap and those volume imbalances, right? That resistance, right? Trade lower, make a new low of the week. Trace. Basically, could have looked at this as a smart money reversal, though. Low risk buy here, right? Got some profits there, but failed to make a new high. Drop down with the news one more time. Actually, we don't even take out this low, so this low was protected. And then that's when we start seeing explosive price action higher, right back into that resistance area. A retracement, one more run on buy side, tagging that weekly open, trade back lower into volume imbalance, that weekly support level. Nice aggressive run back into this opening gap, right? Initial resistance as far as the body of the candle, but then we pushed through that, and then we started to pick up some steam just heading into the end of the day, just ripping higher. All right. And so that is the review from this past week. Like I said, in my opinion, nothing really high probability except for honestly the potential for a push higher here and this rejection there. But this right here was again not something I had foreseen, not something I had to foresee though, to be honest, because this is a very healthy move as well as catching any bit of this, and that's good enough for a whole week. Even just catching one of these, right, would have been good enough for a whole week. This is plenty of movement. You're talking about from 33, let's say 060 up to 33 440. So it's almost 400 points, right? Right there. And then again, catching a move from up in here anywhere, let's say again 33 440 back down to here, about 160. So we're looking at about a 280 point move right there. So plenty to work with, right? But now want to do an outlook as far as this upcoming week. And of course, that will be something that I want to make sure I'm looking at the daily and getting my daily bias from, right? So key here is swing low, confirmed with the close of this candle. Took a lot of buy side, so we could potentially see a retracement early starting next week. But ultimately, if it's nothing crazy, in my opinion, we should continue to see higher prices. Again, we are technically still in a very shaky situation. Fundamentally, still something that I'm not very fluent in or have expertise in, if you will, but it is something I'm adding to my arsenal. And at this point, just understanding technicals, there's still potential up here for reason to have lower prices. Plenty of reason. It just all depend on the day, the economic, counter events that'll be the catalyst and such before these decisions are confirmed. Until then, more data is needed. And just to give a quick peek into next week on the economic calendar. So we see that Monday, nothing high impact or medium for the dollar, for the US dollar. Tuesday, we do get busy. So we have Fed Chair Powell speaking at 9 a.m. Eastern on Tuesday. Could potentially be a busy morning in the market. Wednesday, not much as well, crude oil and then a 10-year bond auction in the afternoon. So I'm not really familiar with this one. So we'll see. And I'll make sure to study this price action when this is released. Thursday, busy again. We get CPI at 8:30 a.m. on Thursday. So Tuesday and Thursday morning could potentially be very busy. Another bond auction here in the afternoon. And then Friday, also, we have a high impact and immediate impact folder at 10 a.m. Eastern. So a potentially very busy week. Could a lot of volatility could be a lot of volatility as well. And just from the daily chart levels I'm watching, of course, I want to keep these old levels that were just broken in mind for potential support, right? If we are to start to trade lower, and ultimately really just keeping in mind this December high, right? The December low, of course, because we're trading within December's range, right? And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for now. So thanks for watching and be safe.